Hi, friends. Host Eric here, host of Talking with Famous People. I'm here with Saren and John, and we are talking today. I'm going to make a video about a response to an article called What We Underestimate Most in Each Myers Briggs Personality Type, written by Heidi Priebe. Heidi Priebe is someone that I have personal experience with in the sense that one of the things that got me thinking about personality type again actively after not really thinking about it for a number of years was an article that she had written called Hell for Each Personality Type. And I thought it was a good article, and I started kind of following her on Facebook and stuff. And at a certain point after that, I started talking about looking into cognitive functions, personality type, and stuff like that a bit. Anyway, there was one occasion where I was being a douchebag for whatever reason, and she schooled the living fuck out of me. She's an ENFP, and she just schooled the shit out of me. It, it was an interesting experience for me. Not something I'm particularly accustomed to, right? So it definitely made an impact on me. Anyhow, since communicating with her before in the capacity of somebody who doesn't who didn't have any sort of particular knowledge or expertise about cognitive functions, into somebody who also positions himself, as does Heidi Priebe, as somebody who writes and talks about this subject matter. It's interesting for me to encounter this article now, and it was shared by somebody in the Talking with Famous People closed group, which anybody's welcome to join, by the way, on Facebook. It's a fun group, and you just gotta request to join it, and I'll add you to it. The Somebody shared it, and I was struck and amused by, oh, there's a Heidi Priebe article. That's cool. Anyway, now I'm going to critique it because some of what she says is right and some of it is completely wrong. So she says about ESFPs, their resourcefulness and intelligence is underestimated. ESFPs are known for being outgoing, excitable, and adventurous. What they're less known for is being sharp, entrepreneurial, and resourceful. They can spot a killer opportunity. Well, while ESFPs regularly receive credit for their social skills, their resourcefulness and entrepreneurialism are often underestimated. First of all, I don't think ESFPs do or should receive credit for their social skills. I think they typically have terrible social skills. So, the fact that they're wild doesn't mean they have good social skills. And I don't think that they have. I don't think that one secret ability of ESFPs is resourcefulness and entrepreneurialism. I just don't see it. I don't see it justified by anything. But and I don't feel it myself, so I can't really come up with any good justifications for it. ESTP, their inventiveness. This couldn't be more wrong. ESTPs are often stereotyped as the daredevil bad boys of the personality community. While these types can harbor a rebellious streak, they can also harbor a keen entrepreneurial one. True. ESTPs often stay on the cutting edge of new technological trends. True. And are just as quick as their intuiting counterparts to formulate new inventions. False. These types are naturally wired to observe, correct, understand, correct, and apply creative thinking, incorrect, to their existing knowledge base. We undoubtedly have many of these quick thinking types to thank for some of our greatest advancements of our time. Undoubtedly, Heidi. No, that's wrong. ISTP is correct. Intellectualism. ISTPs are known as impulsive adrenaline junkies. I don't think that's correct, but who live their lives on the edge. However, many ISTPs relate far more to the traditional NT stereotypes of being intellectual, analytical, and studious. These types approach each new topic that sparks their interest with an intent to research them thoroughly and comprehensively. I agree. ISTPs have an intellectual quality that is reminiscent of intuitive intellectualism in some ways, despite their lack of
Why?
extroverted intuition. Well, it's because the reason ISPs seem smarter than they are, basically, is that before they talk, they've thought out all the TI stuff ahead of time, and then they see talking as an action. So they deliver their prepared meh, and then they've taken that action. So they no longer want to engage with the ideation. So you don't get to hear from them a lot of failure because they're not really engaging with the ideas. What you do get to hear is their best effort after sitting back and preparing for a long time in their head.
So it's all about them preparing their speech and delivering it.
Right. I got to experience this with Colin, Kimberly's son, who on his terms and on his time would approach me and then start an argument about something, but not really like a fight argument, but like a political discussion or something like that, and test me basically and say, "But what about blah and blah blah blah?" And then when he ran out of the ideation that he had prepared ahead of time, the conversation was over.
Okay. So no any possibility there.
Right. There's no NE. So you
Yeah.
that's why they are actually pretty smart, and they seem even smarter than they are probably because of their tendency to TI out shit before they SE, unlike ESTPs. Okay, this one says ISFPs, their intuition, false, wrong, completely bullshit. ISFPs are known for being passionate, creative, and artistic. I don't really get the creative and artistic thing, but okay. I agree they're known for that, but I think that's wrong. But a lesser known facet of their personality is a deep intuitive connection they feel to the world around them. Maybe they feel a connection to the world around them, but you're using the word intuitive in two different ways here. It's an equivocation fallacy. ISFPs are keen observers of their environment, which means they're also quick to recognize patterns and predict events prior to unfolding. That's an NI kind of a thing, maybe a little bit.
Oh,
These
SI?
types, no, recognizing patterns, predicting events, having an understanding of how things will play out across time systemically is an NI kind of knowledge. Their emotional intelligence combined with their careful observation and analysis puts them a cut above the rest in terms of intuiting abilities. These types have earned a reputation as the most intuitive sensors for a reason. That's nonsense. They're probably the least intuitive of all the types. They're the least intuitive, which means they make the fewest leaps metaphysically. Um, yeah, it's just completely wrong. All right, so let's go down here. INTJ, their idealism. INTJs are often stereotyped as ruthlessly logical and efficient. While these traits, this is correct in general. While these traits can certainly be a part of the INTJ personality, they almost always work in conjunction with a deeply embedded sense of moral responsibility and idealism. I agree. INTJs are good people, and they don't necessarily get portrayed as good people, but I believe in their moral center. I like NI DOMs. They make me feel comfortable, so naturally I'm going to favor INTJs.
Why doesn't NI Dom make that happen?
Well,
I mean, because I feel comfortable too. I'm just not sure why that happens.
it's because our ignoring function is NI, which means it's to say something's your ignoring function is to say that it's the thing you expect it to take care of itself, and so much
Okay.
so that you don't even notice when it's not taking care of itself. But you still have that expectation that's not really conscious that well the right course will be obvious. I won't have to worry about thinking about that. So when an NI DOM is in place, you get this reassuring completion of the intuition package. You got your extroverted
Okay.
intuition, and the thing you're assuming takes care of itself. There's somebody there who is that all the time, and so on that level, they do take care. It takes care of itself better when they're around, and it's
Right.
reassuring, comforting.
So you just tend to go with the flow, but when someone's there to assist it for you, it's much more comforting,
Right, and
right?
they're not even actively assisting. You just feel like the environment is more conducive to the NI taking care of itself like it should.
Okay.
All right, INTPs, she says, their thoughtfulness. INTPs are portrayed as avoidant and socially aloof, but let's discuss intense concentration and thoughtfulness they bring to each encounter. Contrary to their tuned out stereotypes, INTPs, um, yeah. I agree with this. INTPs seem like cold, but they're not cold at all. They're caring in a way that is not very effusive, but is just as significant for sure. So, um, I think
Effusive.
she's right about INTPs. All right, so the next one down, ENTJs, their emotional intelligence. ENTJs are often stereotyped as the ruthless, inconsiderate ladder climbers, but they're actually nice people. It says Logic and empathy are not always at odds, and that's true with ENTJ. I guess. I mean, I don't really know many ENTJs. They're probably the rarest type, really. I would guess. At least I don't encounter
Or
them
they're
very
just
often.
busy.
They're just what? You're muted.
That they're just busy.
Oh, they're busy, right? Well, that might be why we don't encounter very many of them because they're busy doing things that I'm not doing. You know, there's places like at marathons where they're never gonna find me. All right, ENTPs. It says their community mindedness. ENTPs are best known for their creative entrepreneurial nature, but they are less known for their ability to bring people together in a meaningful way. Well-developed ENTPs make natural leaders who intuitively understand how to harness and unite the strengths of people around them. In fact, this very trait that often helps this type excel at their career. Yeah, that's right, I guess.
Wait,
Uh,
you kind of rushed through that. What was that last bit there?
It says, in fact, it's this very trait that often helps this type excel at their creative and entrepreneurial ventures, is the ability
Oh,
to
okay.
bring people together in a meaningful way. I don't think we are not known for that though. I think that I I'd say that the thing that's underestimated in the ENTP is their moistness. Like no matter how beast mode they may seem in the moment, all you have to do is sniffle and look sad, and you completely
It's all
disarmed the
gone.
ENTP. You
Yeah.
completely disarmed them. Okay, so ENFP, their philosophical insight. ENFPs are often stereotyped as fun loving social butterflies, but they're actually deeply philosophical, have incredibly profound insights, and they take life seriously. Their insight is often underestimated. I don't know if ENFP insight is underestimated. I do agree that they're pretty insightful people. Um, I mean, and they can they've got expert intuition, which makes them inherently always dangerous. This is why Heidi Priebe is, of all the people who've schooled me in the last 5 years, she schooled me best, most, and I was most completely schooled. And it was an ENFP, so goes to show you. INFP, it says their analytical abilities are underestimated. INFPs are known for deep feelings, being meow meow moist, but they're, however, thorough and rigorous analysis they apply to the formation. Yeah, you know, INFPs have good TI potentially as long as it's not used. It's used in a non feelings hurting way. My friend Liz is an INFP and she's very bright in terms of the actual, you know, processing power of her TI. She just doesn't use it to make decisions. All right, ENFJ, the visionary streak. ENFJs are known for their caring and giving nature, but they are underappreciated for their keen ability to analyze. I tell you what they're underestimated for is their malevolent, manipulative bullshit. They're not caring and giving. They're malevolent and manipulative. We may think of ENFJs as selfless as personable. Who thinks of them as that? I think of them as fucking fake and exploitative. We often grossly underestimate what's brewing beneath the surface of that kindness and their groundbreaking visions. Their groundbreaking visions for getting everybody to help them with their shit and think they're the most important person in the world.
Man, who did you date that was like a
I, I
horrible person?
I didn't. Kimberly's told me stories about her ex best friend who was an ENFJ and the bullshit that she pulled, and it's made me go be a bit on an ENFJ warpath lately. All right, INFJs.
Okay.
Their reason. INFJs are stereotyped as highly sensitive and deeply in tune with their emotional atmosphere, and while these traits aren't absent from INFJ's psyche, they almost always come second to what the INFJ does best, which is perceptive shifting and analytical reasoning. INFJs are intuitives first. Yeah, they're smart. What she's saying is, but this is the thing about INFJs. What you can underestimate about them is their consistency within the type. Some of them have very good TI, and some of them have very shitty TI. They are prone to be conspiracy theorists because they understand their truths as being existent in the world rather than subjectively originated, and as a consequence, their instincts about how things really are will be the deciding evidence for them in a lot of matters if they get too attached to their NI, which can be wrong and often is. Okay, so let's go down to ISFJ. their insight and depth. ISFJs are known as nurturers and givers, but they're also incredibly deep thinkers. This is fucking totally true, by the way. I didn't believe it a few months ago, even. It took me a while to understand how much is going on underneath the surface of Kim, who devote a great deal of time and effort into understanding the human condition. These types are practical in nature but complex and nuanced in their thoughts. They consider new perspectives deeply and often come to the profound conclusions about the nature of life and love. While these types are givers and nurturers at heart, they are deep and contemplative thinkers in nature, traits that often overlooked by others. It's true, and actually the truth is the ISFJ is the most intuitive of the sensors. ISFJ is the most intuitive of the sensors for a very clear reason. For a set of clear reasons. First, they have the intuition sensing axis as their main axis. They've got the subjective epistemology that supports extroverted intuition. To say you're seeking function is not just to say you want somebody else to provide it for you. It's to say you want somebody else to manage the ecosystem so that you can utilize that function yourself effectively. And so having NE in the fourth slot for an ISFJ, if she's in a dual relationship, what she gets out of that in part is an environment that rewards her NE and encourages it and makes it safe for her NE to come out, right? The thing is, ISFJs are also the most intuitive because their tool function is the most engaged and metaphysical of the interface functions. Namely, she's FE instead of TE in the tool function, and she has an extrovert function as a tool function, and it's an interface function, which means she's got put, get, and receive. She's got versatility there with that function. And
so extroversion makes you more intuitive?
Well, no, let me finish. And the extroverted tool function that she has is a metaphysical one. Namely, she's dealing with objective approximations of things, even though she's prioritizing motivational and social hierarchy vectors in her analysis. She's still doing work in the same fundamental plane as the other quadramates. So naturally, who's going to be the most intuitive sensor is going to necessarily come from Alpha Quadra, because Alpha is the most intuitive quadra. And that's necessarily the case because we extrovert our intuition, the whole quadra does, and we use the metaphysical tool functions or metaphysical judging functions, not the physical judging functions. So we're the most metaphysical quadra. I go metaphysical, 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 physical. Susie goes metaphysical, metaphysical, physical, metaphysical. Abraham goes metaphysical, physical, metaphysical, metaphysical. And Kim goes physical, metaphysical, metaphysical, metaphysical. So we're all three metaphysicals and one physical. And the physical one is the epistemology. The knowledge function, being subjective, is the least sensory of the possible physical elements you could have in there. So in other words, SI as a subjective epistemology still has to keep track of metaphysical objects, representations of things. It doesn't get to deal with experiential manifestations in the moment. Most people don't remember by re-experiencing things. They remember by accessing a symbolic representation of things. Even though SI means we frame that through a personal history rather than through rules implicit to the world, then even though that's the case, it's still conducive to metaphysical action. In other words, SI keeps track of what NE does. You have to, NE is completely untethered if there's no keeping track of what you thought before and what you said before and what you were planning to talk about in this video. You know, my NE is happily dancing around until first, like 20 seconds ago, I paused because I forgot what I was doing. Wait, what am I talking about? Oh, and then I looked at, oh yeah, that article. That's right. So about, oh, okay. You know, I had to catch up like that. Why? Because NE and SI work on an axis because they necessitate each other. To do that kind of metaphysical action, you need to have an epistemology that's subjective. Whereas, on the other hand, to do physical action, you need to have an epistemology that's subjective. I mean, it's objective. So that's why SE is necessarily paired with NI. NI has to render reality into objective, from an objective perspective, so that SE can act upon it without thinking it's treating it. So SE can behave as though it's reacting to something external rather than acting upon something internal. Okay, anyway, ISFJs are the most intuitive sensors. ESFJ, their practicality. ESFJs are known for being warm and caring people, but their practical nature is often overlooked and undervalued in the type community. Indeed, these types can often rival their thinking counterparts in their ability to plan, yada yada yada. I agree. I don't think that's really underestimated though. Everybody knows FESI is going to be pretty orderly and organized, at least for presentational reasons. All right, ESTJ, their generosity. ESTJs are often stereotyped as cutthroat professionals, but to their inner circle, ESTJs endlessly generous type. I agree with that completely. And I know a couple of ESTJs well, and I value ESTJs a lot. I don't have any problem with them. They're really good people who often come across wrong because they're not very good at FE, and it's their insecurity function. All right, ISTJ. What are they underestimated for? Their intellectual inclinations. ISTJs are known for being hardworking, diligent, and dutiful. What they're less known for is their keen intellectual streak. That's because they don't have one, Heidi Priebe. You're wrong. They do have they do take care of research topics that interest them, and they can make excellent scholars in academics. No, it's like my friend Cameron. He studied the book on various electrical connections within air conditioning units, so that he could know when he went to a Crane 2200 that he'd use a this thing rather than a that thing. That's the kind of detailed study he did. There's nothing intellectual about that, okay? Doesn't matter how well and hard you study, that doesn't make the subject matter intellectual. So Heidi, I didn't keep track of your batting average, but I think you were about 50% on this, if I remember correctly. I like your writing in general. Your understanding of cognitive functions is limited at best, Heidi Priebe. And I'm not just saying that because you schooled the shit out of me that one time. I'm saying that because I don't think you've been doing any work on the subject since last I encountered you. In terms of ideational work, Maybe you couldn't determine exactly how you felt about it.
Ew, FI person loses by default in Eric Lamb.
See, Heidi Priebe, here's why I probably won't ever win against you, but I'm not going to lose either. Because Susie's here arguing on your behalf. And doing a damn good job of it, okay? She's cutting, she's witty, she's observant. She's not afraid to call it like it is. She's a straight shooter. And the fact that you have an FI tool function doesn't mean you're inferior. It just means you're not doing much intellectual work on the subject at this point. And it's wrong of me to say that that's because you have FI in the tool function. Obviously, your polar TI is not a disability. Okay? Polar TI is not a disability. It doesn't mean you're dumb. It doesn't mean that. It just means...
This is so bad, FE.
I'm just playing with you, Heidi Priebe. I don't give a fuck. I love you, Heidi Priebe. You are one special lady. Very special. You can come on the show anytime if you want. I'd love to talk to you. The thing that you schooled me about was when I was getting douchey about a video you had made because you had a bunch of like ums and ahs and shit. And so I felt like I roundly deserved my schoolage. I was just surprised you were able to do it so effectively. Anywho, In contrast, this article is somewhat less effective if you measure effectiveness by accuracy. It's very well written, though. I like your prose. You're a good writer. Any other comments from the assembled personages? John, Susie, Saren, Janet?
Yeah, I'll say that the ISTP comment was kind of corrective, but regarding there being more rebellious than the ESTP, because the ESTP needs to get other people to work along with them, while the ISTP doesn't really give a shit. And
ISTPs are just bratty. They
yeah,
are so bratty.
the other day, I think it was a year ago or 2 years ago, I met an INFP chick, and she was talking to me and telling me a story about her brother, and that he like went into he was doing a car race, and he ended up crashing the car and then just walked away and left because he didn't want to get caught by the cops, and then he got in trouble later. But still, it's like he enjoyed himself by getting out his SE, you know, like a ESTP would.
Word.
And then
Okay.
another way of method of going about it is that some people, for their specific types, they try to how do you how do we relate this?
They try to rub poo on their face?
Sure, that too. But no, I was referencing like an ISTJ, more like analytical. They try to read the books and try to get the best. What do you, not profitability. The more efficient?
Efficiency?
Yeah, in being like least costly. Like make it like the cheapest price and stuff like that, and or have a better financial model that would make them money kind of deal. While
Right.
an no, it isn't. An ISTP is more like a introverted rebel that they'll do stuff like more SD dominant. So versus an I and an E, I'm think the INTP versus the ENTP. Do you think which one do you think would be more rebellious?
ENTP.
ENTP. But I mean, well, it depends. An INTP might be more stubbornly rebellious. I mean, ENTP is willing to give up their deeply held principles as soon as it sees like it's not working. You know, it's like, oh, that argument's not working. Okay, well, all right, fine, I'll give in.
So it's just different aspects of it. Like I forgot the other one I was going to mention up, but yeah, Heidi's pretty smart female, and I've read quite a few of her articles, and it has quite a bit of different insights. And like, what did you say? That 50% of it was right, or more than 60,
Yeah,
70%? Like,
I didn't keep track, but it felt like about 50%, maybe a little bit more. Seemed right to me. I mean, she's very
Okay.
aware of how she's gonna play from a media perspective. She tends to always say positive things about the types and try to write stuff that makes people feel
oh, no
good about
controversy.
themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay,
I have
well, go ahead, John. Yeah, go ahead.
Do we want to leave a link to this article since we kind of featured it in
Yeah, I'm gonna
the
link.
video? Maybe
I'm gonna
a
link
YouTube
to it.
link.
Link to it in the description for sure.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? Okay. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese. Heidi, I totally hope you watch this video. I have fond feelings in general about you and towards you. I don't actually. I don't care if you're right or whatever about this shit. Doesn't matter.